Hello, my name is Ashley Berner. I'm the Deputy Director of the Johns Hopkins University Institute for Education Policy, and I'm an Associate Professor at Johns Hopkins University. Thank you so much for inviting me to talk about the way that the United States school systems have been responding to COVID and what those of us in education policy have thought about in this context. So, first of all, let me just say that our school systems have been very unevenly prepared to make this change to remote learning, which happened all in a flash. It was very sudden. We have many school districts in which very few children have access to wireless, even have laptops or mobile devices that they could use for remote learning. And so we have seen some heroic action on the part of curriculum providers who have partnered with public television to deliver education via public TV. We have many teachers who've been photocopying lessons and passing them out to families. It's been a real challenge in some places. And if anything, it has shown us as a country how prepared we need to become to make the rapid transition that may be required in the future. The United States in general has a very different model, a different structure for schooling than most democracies around the world. We have a school system that for 100 years has been calibrated around one delivery system. We have organized ourselves at the state level, at the local level, around what we call the district. The district, of which there are thousands in this country, the district delivers education to its constituents, to the local area. And in fact, some of our state constitutions have this term, educational uniformity, or a uniform school system, built into the constitutions. That is for particular historical and cultural reasons. I go into that in depth in other work that I've done, but it's a distinctive history, and it happens to color the way we debate policies now. There are changes in most states to try to push against the uniform delivery system, but we are a long way from the educational pluralism that most democracies have. By contrast, educational pluralism is a public system in which the government funds and, importantly, regulates, but it doesn't necessarily operate or deliver a wide array of schools. So the Netherlands funds 36 different kinds of schools. Sweden has some per capita funding. Alberta, Canada funds even Inuit and homeschooling. And they hold these schools accountable for academic results. So just bear in mind that the United States is operating from a very different model. And it isn't just about the structure of our education, which is uniform in the main. It's also the content of our education. We don't have content-rich assessments. We don't have required curriculum frameworks. Even at the state level, most education policy in the United States happens at the state level, and there are very few states. Massachusetts is the strong exception that have curriculum that all kids have to master, or at least curriculum frameworks. So we're starting from a very different position. But let me tell you, besides the issues that are equity issues and access issues that I highlighted at the beginning of this clip, there are some things that we are recommending that states consider and education leaders consider as they return to face-to-face. It is an opportunity for us to recalibrate some of the way we do education. So our institute at Johns Hopkins partnered with Chiefs for Change. Chiefs for Change is a national member organization in this country of commissioners of education who manage education policy in their state, and also some innovative superintendents who run the district schools I referenced earlier. So these are system leaders, and they're innovative and reform oriented, and we partner with them regularly, and we partner to produce a report called The Return. And you can find it on our website. I will provide a little link to that at the end of this talk. But we have gotten tremendous response to this and the guidance that we offer. I'm just going to give you the highlights. We dive into the research basis for all of these. We look to international systems and what works there for our examples. So we have very much tried to draw on the learning that many of you and your school systems around the world have done. And what we concluded, what we recommended for all school systems, whether they are charter, Catholic, Islamic, or district schools, all the variety of schools, 4 things. The first thing to consider is recalibrating, redesigning the school calendar. So Americans tend to have much less instructional time than our democratic peers. We have fewer days in our school calendar, and we have much longer vacations. In particular, we still have almost a 3-month summer vacation. And what the research suggests that that's a real issue with what we call summer melt, or students losing ground academically during the summer. So our institutions together have recommended that we design a more flexible and more robust academic calendar. This is something that all schools can participate in. The second is that we think about the teachers differently and differentiate teacher roles more efficiently. So some teachers are fantastic with delivering content. They are masterful instructors. And those teachers with subject matter expertise could be given more students for lectures, for large group learning. They should be playing that role. Other teachers who have exquisite skills in connecting with students, providing academic and emotional and social supports for them, could play the role of mentor teachers and lead small groups of students through an entire year, whether they're working together face-to-face or remotely. So redesigning the professional roles is something we should also consider. And again, this is following on best practices around the world. Our third recommendation is around social and emotional wellness and student agency. Along with this, we are recommending that schools practice with remote learning. A lot of school systems around the world have started to do this just to be prepared for not only a health crisis, but a dramatic natural event or other disruptions to learning. So we need to practice with that so that students are really able to own their learning. We also need to make sure that students' general well-being is supported during this kind of event and after. There's a lot of stress right now, as I'm sure all of your countries face, with adults, unemployment, concerns about illness, the loss and the grief that we face. This is something that schools can address and nurture. So we give some specific suggestions around that. And finally, on academics. As I mentioned at the beginning, the United States has walked away from a knowledge-rich curriculum for 100 years. And so we tend to focus on skills as opposed to knowledge building. And yet we know from research that this knowledge background is really critical, particularly for first-generation students. And so in order to close the achievement gaps and in order to mediate the effect of going in and out of face-to-face sessions, we're recommending that chiefs, that educational leaders take this time to incentivize the use of the best curriculum out there and to tie that up with assessments that explore students' mastery of that content. This is something that many high-performing school systems do naturally and that our school systems used to do before we had this massive switch from knowledge to skills. So the research is moving in that direction. Some of our Chiefs for Change members, for example, have already started to stand up these models, and it's time to really make good on that promise. So this is just a very brief overview of our report. I would welcome your questions. You can tweet to me, and Chiefs for Change is also available for comment. It's a privilege to partner with them, and I look forward to being in touch with all of you. Thank you again for the opportunity to give some brief remarks.